Hello, everyone. I've never seen the UK Film Centre so packed. We're so delighted to be with you. This is the first talent talk. There's a wonderful program of lots of talks here, so do check out the full schedule. My name is Wendy Mitchell. I'm a journalist and a festival programmer, and I am so delighted to be hosting this talent talk for Urchin. We have the writer-director Harris Dickinson. The producer, Archie Pearch. And the amazing cinematographer, Josée Deshaies. And just because it takes a village to raise a film, I also want to give a shout out to your fellow producer, Scott O'Donnell from Some Such, who is here, who's in the room. Now, I'm declaring myself the original Urchin superfan because I've gotten the chance to see the film twice. It is absolutely amazing. It's going to be the talk of Cannes starting tomorrow when people can actually see it. So we're not going to try to spoil that experience for anybody. We're not going to ruin the film. Obviously, I don't think anybody in the room can have seen it yet. So we'll try to keep it more general and not ruin the film. Harris, we know you as an actor, but at around age 8, you started shooting like skate videos and stuff. Film has always been in your head.
Yeah. I thought maybe I would sort of be a camera operator. That was maybe the dream. I just loved filming stuff, and I was making skate videos for my friends, and then I was also making like sketch shows and short dramas that I would sort of get off the ground by way of help from family and friends and whatnot. And then,
can we see them on YouTube?
No. I removed them. I got to like 20. I was like, oh, I need to get rid of them. I need to like evaporate them from the internet. But I was never in them, so I think acting was like a secondary thing, which I love very much, and I'm so grateful to be doing it. But acting came along and sort of overtook it in a way, and my love of cinema and filmmaking was always what was driving me to be on set as well, and to be a part of that circus that I love so much. Yeah.
And I have to say, I can't wait for people to see you as a filmmaker, because this is not an actor sort of having an ego and dabbling and trying something. This is announcing a new voice in cinema. So I'm just going to say that up front. Embarrass him. Yeah. But this film, let's talk a little, we're not going to ruin it, but it's about a youngish man who is sort of living rough for a while on the streets of London and gets into some trouble and trying to find his way. He's an addict. Why was this the story that you had in sort of your heart that you wanted to write and direct as your first feature?
Well, I just became really interested in the idea of someone who was ultimately struggling against themselves. I've had people close to me deal with addiction and cyclical behavior, and it became an issue that I wanted to try and tap into and depict in a way that also had humor and levity and humanity, and that wasn't trying to shove any messaging down people's throats. The base of it was there, the social political base was there, and the hopefully the integrity is there of the community and the cause, but ultimately we wanted to make something that was character-led, and try and tap into that psychology to allow people to have a bit of a perspective on it,
It's a very humane way to tell this story, I think, too, sort of a fully rounded. I have to admit, I was skeptical. I was like, baby girl over here is going to be, telling a story of the streets. What does he know about this? But you've been working with people who are unfortunately on the streets for a decade or something. You volunteer weekly when you're in London. This is a world you've met a lot of people who have lived rough.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in East London just before the pandemic. I was working locally at a community project that was being run as like almost like a refuge and a safe place, and we would help them fix up furniture, and the people that were unhoused would come in have a job momentarily. And then the council shut it down. And then that being there kind of made me want to tell a story about it, because it was clear that despite people's best efforts, they were still, vulnerable people fall between the cracks. We know that from, history, and time again, it just happens. And I then started working with a charity called Under One Sky, who I still work with, and they have groups all over London that go out and do welfare checks and food, hot drinks, essentials, street links. And it just became a cause I felt close to. I wanted to try and get behind, and it wasn't like, I'm a tiny cog in a much bigger machine. It's a volunteer-led grassroots community that make the wheels turn of a much bigger thing, pushing for, policy change and legislative change. But ultimately, it's like, what can we do now to go out and try and support people in our local community that are vulnerable? So that's what I started doing. But then it coincided with also my research for the world and for the character, and then that was one side of it. And then the other side of it was that we also had to invite in interrogation of the script from advisors and people in probation, prison reform, trauma, addiction, people that had lived experience with homelessness.
Did you do a lot of that research yourself?
Yeah, I spent 4 years doing it. But then once we got to production, we also invited those people in to interrogate it and work with our crew and Frank. And so that was another side of it. So, yeah, I mean, what do I know about the streets? I don't know. I mean,
well, were there specific people that you've met over these years and years you've been volunteering? Were there specific people who helped inform Mike's story, or just other addicts that you might have known? Or was this sort of amalgamation of people that inspired Mike? It's not just one person.
No, it's not just one person. It's multiple people. It's also the capabilities inside of us all, It's the potential within us all, within myself, to go to that place of darkness or habitual behaviour. It's something that I think we can all sort of find somewhere in us, and it became an amalgamation. Also, there was specific people in my life that had really struggled with certain issues that, it became a tapestry of everything along the way. And then, of course, Frank came along and had his own thing for it as well, and his own set of reference points and people. And,
this is the brilliant Frank Langella, who I think is going to be really get people talking here too. We'll come back to Frank. Let's come to Archie.
Hello.
Hello. You met Harris quite a few years ago, and you made a short film, 2003,
Correct.
with him.
We did.
And what was it that struck you as being a sort of kindred spirit for what you want to do? You and Harris now have a production company together, Divisio?
We do, Divisio Pictures. I mean, we met about 8 years ago when we were looking for finance for a short film. And I kind of, from that moment, our sensibilities aligned. And, I met him as an actor and now a filmmaker. And I think it's just very clear that he has a very distinct vision. And he's driven by quality, he's selective. But, I think that kind of goes into what we want to do as a company. We want to be bold with what we do. We want all our films to be elevated in some way. We're very much driven by quality and finding the right people to work with. So I think the kind of film is as a first film to go out and to play here is obviously incredible.
Yeah, first film can in certain regards. Pretty good result. Yeah.
But I think it is definitely sowing the seed for what's to come.
Yeah. And Archie, can you talk a little bit, just when Harris had this idea and you started seeing the script come alive, what was impressing you about the way Harris wanted to tell Mike's story? Because, like you're saying, it is tragic, it is funny, it is all these things. And what did you think of the sort of vision behind this plot?
I think first of all, the story is something that is so personal to Harris, and I think that for me was really striking straight away. And I think, as he'd said, that he knows the world so much and how he's brought such levity to it, while also being humorous, while also, Frank being vulnerable, and his ability to work as an actor, but then also bring that into his filmmaking and work with, the actors was incredible on set. So, from the very beginning, it was very clear that he was going to make something that was very exciting.
And Josée, I'd love to bring you in because you've worked with even more established filmmakers like Bertrand Bonello, Iris Sachs on Passages, and you are Canadian-French. And what impressed you enough about Harris's vision that you wanted to take a chance on a first-time filmmaker here?
Hello.
Hello.
Pure instinct, I
Okay.
would say. We briefly met on Zoom because I was in Paris. And I don't know, there's some people that after 5 minutes, it's like you've been knowing them for a very long time. So it's very an organic process.
And how, Harris, for you, is it important that somebody who hasn't shot London a lot might bring a fresh eye to it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we spoke about it a lot. I mean, Josée, you'd been to London or no?
Oh.
Never to
yeah.
England. First time
yeah.
in England.
Yeah. Which was actually amazing for us because I think we really wanted to be clear about the fact that the way in which we view the world wasn't the London that we've seen all the time. Obviously, there's recognisable parts of London in the film. That's inescapable. But ultimately, José's, view into this story was from an outsider's perspective, and it wasn't like trying to tap into a certain thing that everyone had seen in British cinema. So that excited me, and I really let that, lead the way in many ways.
I think there were also times where we want to scout, and we'd all be looking one way, and we'd be like, "Where's Josée?" And she was just looking the other way.
Yeah.
She'd be like, "We're going to shoot."
She'd be on her own, looking at the complete direction. We'd be like, "Yep, she's right."
Okay, yeah. And how did you two sort of collaborate to plan the visual language of this film? Because one thing I was just saying to Josée is I really love that even in the sort of chaotic street moments or things are kicking off, the camera is still quite elegant. The camera can be quite calm amongst, it's not like a jarring. So how did you think about that? And then Josée, how did you achieve that? Yeah.
I mean, I think it was just together we arrived at that place, really. I mean, I was never so interested in trying to do loads of coverage, and Josée also shares that, desire. And I don't know, I think if you can do something in a frame and not have to try and do tricks and stuff, then it tests you and it tests the scene, and it makes the scene really have to hold up. Otherwise, you can have a sort of average situation, maybe some average acting, and you can do some trickery and some stuff.
Try to make it look cooler.
Yeah, and woo, and then maybe it's like, wow, it dazzles a bit. But I think if you can really, create something within a situation and within a frame. But I mean, it was once we were scouting as well. I don't think we were like prepping so far in advance, were we? We didn't have we obviously shot listed vaguely, but we were as we were going as well, it was always changing as well, I think, which was great about Josée. She was always suggesting new opportunities or new perspectives on something, and it really, taught me a lot and pushed me as well to sort of think, how else can we do this, or how far can we push it?
But I thought also we had some kind of set of rules, and of course rules, you can break them if you decide. But you talked about elegance, and I think that was, we talked about that, Harris, too. But elegance without being stiff or...
Not too rigid.
Yes,
Bit
or
classic.
funny but not vulgar.
Ah.
Precise but not over precise. So it's a question of balance, I think. But I think we checked with colors, like which color maybe we don't add. Or, about visual pollution also on the street. You have a lot of visual pollution.
Noise, yeah.
Noise and signs that makes no sense. So it was maybe also choose street or corners that make sense and not too crazy or
Not to overwhelm.
distracting.
And Harris, I know you love watching cinema. So were there certain films you had in mind as inspirations specifically for the visual language of this film? Did you have anything in mind?
I mean, there were lots. I mean, there was. It always feels like there's a load of films floating around in the kind of ether of what you think are your ideas and the references, and then they always shift. I mean, we screened some films for the cast and the crew during prep. I think I told you when we had our chat in London, and the kind of first one and the main one for us was Manila in the Claws of Light by Lena Brocker, which was a kind of sprawling like urban odyssey, you know, and in many ways that was something we were looking to occasionally. But I think we also we wanted it to be a prototype, like we said, you know. We didn't want to try and be like, oh yeah, let's do this today and that tomorrow. But it was like the feeling of each day, you know. We would have a feeling that we were aiming for, and
Maybe it was different on different days.
it was different on different days, and I think like we was careful not to hold anything too specific in people's like references. But Vagabond was an early one, and there was some amazing documentaries that we screened by Mark Isaacs, who's an amazing British filmmaker who makes really confronting but quite funny and human documentaries. So we screened those, and yeah.
Yeah, it was a great way to create common language, because we invited everybody that was available.
All the HODs.
6 weeks before, every week.
Harris's Film Festival.
Yes, exactly. In a proper screening room, and everybody was invited. So, and that's how I met some of the crew, actually, for the first time.
Watching films together.
Watching
beautiful.
film.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that Harris didn't comment. He was not judgmental about this film or saying, we're going to steal this or do this. No, it was very, let's embrace those films. It goes in your subconscious, the whole crew, and it creates kind of memories in your mind. And so it was an interesting path to prep a film, beside, of course, all the usual preparation we do with all the HODs.
Yeah. Archie, I wanted to ask you about some of that prep and the challenges of that, you know, this is not a big budget film. You know, how did you carve out a little budget to have this screening room, and how much prep could
Pulled
you do?
a lot of favours.
Okay.
I paid for it.
Okay.
You actually did as well.
You got a favor from him.
I had a favour from him, separate budget. The shoot was incredibly tough. We shot, I think it was 39 locations over 28 days.
Just let that sink in. 39 locations, 28 days. Some night shoots as well?
It was primarily night shoots, split days, you know, all shooting all in East London. It was incredibly tough, and I think it's sort of a testament to our crew and the people that we surrounded ourselves with. We'd never have been able to do it without them. There was certain days where we had 6 locations and shooting till 4 a.m. and we lost a location at 3 a.m. I think it was, but our location manager managed to find somewhere in half an hour.
At 3 a.m.?
At 3 a.m.
Wow, give that person a hand. Who's that?
If you're in here, we love you.
But also, just to say about Archie and Scott, our other producer, like a testament to those guys, because even when I presented the script and had all of these different locations, at not one point did they say to me, oh, do you want to try and condense them or have fewer locations? 30. They were just like, great, let's figure this out, which is like the best possible thing you need from a producer, to be like, how do we make this work for you? And so I'm very grateful to these guys, because anyone else could have been like, it's a bit stupid.
Yeah.
You know? And they didn't. They thought it, but they didn't say it.
But I think there's an authenticity, though, that comes through with that. And I want to mention, it's not going to spoil anything. Mike, at one point, is working in a hotel kitchen. And Harris, this is a place you used to work. Right?
Yeah. I worked in the hotel for 4 years when I was younger. And when I wrote the script, I sort of based it there because it was what I knew. And then when we were looking for the location, we went back there and asked them if we could film, and they let us. But it wasn't a hotel anymore. It was a sort of private residence or whatever. And they said, yeah, if you want. And we redecorated it to make it look, you know, a bit different. And they've kept it, so they must have liked it. Yeah.
But how important was the East London of it to you? Because that's where you're born and bred.
Well, it wasn't important in terms of like people knowing it's East London.
Okay.
It's important because I know it and
Yeah.
the locations, and
You could
I've
picture.
walked around those streets, you know, all my life, and I have an association. I know what alley this is. I know, so it was only helpful rather than like having a specificity. I don't care if people think it's West London or North London or.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, or Antwerp, or you know, it's not a London story,
Yeah,
really.
it
It's
could
not
be
a London
Yeah.
specific story. This could be anywhere.
Let's talk a bit more about this story, because I also want to bring in the brilliant casting of Frank Langella as Mike. I mean, Harris, first of all, did you know immediately you didn't want to play the lead role? You're in a smaller role, but
Yeah, I didn't think I was gonna be able to do that. I didn't want to. I didn't
Yeah.
want to. Yeah, no.
be a director. That's good.
I just don't know how people do it. I don't know how that works. I took a smaller role in the film because we had someone drop out very close to the shoot.
You didn't even want to do that at first.
Well, no, I didn't. But it felt at the time like the easy thing to do. We offered it to some people, auditioned a few people, and then it didn't work out. So Frank was like, "You should do it," and we sort of spoke about it. And because we'd already been rehearsing and reading the script together, it did feel like an easy route into it together. But I don't think I would do it again, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe Archie, can you talk a little bit about the whole casting process and how many people you looked at, and then when Frank started to emerge as the frontrunner?
Shaheen Baig, our casting director, was she was amazing. She provided us with a lot of options very early. But Frank really, I would say, actually stood out from the very beginning. I mean, I remember watching his tape. I wasn't in the room like you were, but he had an energy. And as soon as we started just, having another round of tapes with him, it became very clear that he could really take this role on. And I think when you do watch the film, you will be completely blown away by his performance. I loved him, I hated him, I cried. He's delivers this incredibly humorous but vulnerable performance, which I think this is his moment.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with you, because he was in Harry Potter and stuff, but not maybe as a lead.
Yeah.
And people are going to see him in a whole new way.
Yeah.
And Harris, how did you and Frank work together? Was it sort of 6 months of lunches talking about this character, and did you pay for those yourself?
He did.
No, but how did you start to prep with Frank and give him room to bring himself into this as an actor?
Well, yeah, he came on early, but even before we had full financing, really. So he sort of committed, sort of knowing that it might not get made, which is, hard to do as an actor. But he threw himself in, and then, we spent a lot of time workshopping the script together, and then I just sort of sent him on his way to do his own work, and we also set him up with a lot of the advisors I spoke about earlier, and he also started working with Under One Sky, the charity.
Did he actually sleep rough a night or two?
That's for him to answer.
Okay.
I think there was stuff he didn't tell us that he did. That
Okay.
he was
He
doing.
said, I'll be off comms for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
He said you won't hear from me for a bit. So
Okay.
I don't know what he did, but we didn't make him do that.
Yeah.
I'm not,
Okay.
But yeah, we bounced off each other. He came up with ideas as well, and yeah.
And how, when you then get to the actual shoot, especially because you got all these locations, I know you've been in Ruben Östlund's film, so he does 40 takes sometimes. Some other filmmakers do 1 or 2. Where are you? Are you in the middle of that? No, you, Harris. Or how many takes do you?
As an actor, what do I like?
No. As a director.
On set, how many did we do?
How many did you like doing 2 takes or 40?
No, I think our average was like 9 or 10.
I don't even remember.
No, average was like 10.
Okay.
Really, yeah. Some scenes less, but yeah, we never really did more than 10 or 15. Well, the thing is that sometimes you need a lot of takes. If there's elaborate camera move and there's a choreography, you need the time to for every department to figure out their bit. You know, art department are getting, you know, figuring it out. Boom's figuring it out.
Especially you're in a
actors
new
are figuring it
location
out.
all the time.
Yeah. So I think it's good to just get it going and see what happens, and then slowly you build towards something that starts to feel like it's clicking a little bit. And then once that clicks, you do something else in a different corner, and then a different version of that. But
And with Frank, is he somebody, did he like to sort of improv a little or add a bit or try something totally different, or was he really sticking to the script by the time you were actually shooting?
He was pretty tight on the script. I mean, we would change things on the day, and he would sometimes improv. But I know I would encourage him to, but he would sort of be very the script is there. You know, we like the structure and da. But he was unpredictable, which was maybe to Josée's detriment sometimes. But
Where are you?
where are you going? Yeah, there's no point giving him a mark, basically.
Okay.
You would always capture it, though.
Yeah.
And yeah, Josée, he's in almost every frame of this film, or so much of it. What did you take away from his performance? Because you're there with him, you know, closer than Harris sometimes. So yeah, what did you see in Frank's performance?
Well, I'm kind of a first viewer, actually.
Yeah.
Behind the camera, you're the first person that sees the performance. I thought his face was so interesting. So interesting. And because we discussed with the Harris before, if you watch the film, you realize there's almost no close-up.
Yeah.
Because if you overuse close-up when you need it, well, it doesn't have any effect anymore. So by always keeping medium distance, also for the character, and also in respect of the actor, that you're not intrusive, but you let him play. So yeah, his face, his eyes, his body language, and it's true that he's there from in every single scene.
Yeah. So you need him to do that.
But I just want to say what I liked. He's in all the scene, but what I loved about Harris is all the female roles are really strong and very bold and not cliche. And that I thank Harris for that work. He's well surrounded.
A good feminist over here. Thank you. Harris, do you want to mention any of your other HODs who were or Archie too, just especially important collaborators in this film? As you mentioned, it's kind of, this wasn't a huge budget. People are sort of doing favors and making it happen. And you have to kind of be like a family to get 39 locations done in 28 days. So what were the other sort of key HODs you might want to mention?
Well, we had Kobe Yates as our costume designer, who was phenomenal. We had Anna Rhodes as our production designer. Lisa Mustafa, who was hair and makeup, who I think is in the room.
Hey, Lisa.
Hey, Lisa.
Well
Shout out to Lisa.
But yeah, I think in every single department, we really wanted to create sort of the best network and sort of support us in the best way. And I think that we were very... Yeah, we spent a lot of time working out who those people were, and we wanted it to feel like...
Getting the right team.
Exactly. We wanted it to feel like a family. We knew the journey that we had to go on. But, you know, every single person completely just blew us away, so...
But it also takes a certain kind of collaborator to come on board something that isn't a huge budget, and for me to be...
Not a cushy job.
No, and I'm asking a lot of these people, and I don't have there's no like limit. I'm like, you know, can we do, you know, and a lot of the time these amazing HODs would really try and get there for us, you know, and for the film, and you also had to inspire that same level of like enthusiasm for people for their work. So they're coming in every day and they want to like, you know, walk away from it super proud as well, and not just be like, you know, serving someone else. It's their thing as well, you know.
Josée, you've worked with quite a few directors. What kind of director is Harris? Let's put you on the spot here.
Perfect. No, I mean, it's... No, it's not perfect.
Let's
but
finish
you
there.
can be perfect. No, you can be perfect, but that doesn't mean you don't have faults, you know?
Oh.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the relation was perfect. That's what
Yeah.
I mean.
But sounds very collaborative.
Very
Yeah.
collaborative.
But also with a vision. That's kind of the perfect thing you want in a director.
Unpretentious,
Yeah.
hard worker, athletic. Like, because, you know, if you want to be in this festival at some point, it's like the Olympics, you know, you have to work a lot. It's
Never stops thinking.
Oh, yeah. Always thinking. He's thinking right now.
I've got a lot. I've got so much to learn, and like Josée was just an amazing teacher as well and a collaborator. But I have a long way to go. Yeah.
We have time for one or two questions from the audience. So, where is Katie with the microphone? Katie's there, so we could come to this lady in the black and white shirt there on the aisle, standing. And then I can.
Hi, thank you guys so much for coming to talk to us. I saw Harris and Wendy Picture House Create, so
nice plug.
so lovely to see you guys again. Now that this film is finally going to be out, I guess this is more of a question for Archie and Harris. Is there anything that you wanted to achieve with this work? Maybe, you know, bring to light a certain issue, humanize addiction, or start a conversation, something like that?
Yeah, what kind of impact do you want to have too? Yeah.
Well, we hope that people look at this story and go on the journey with Mike and have an insight into this struggle, a human insight into it, not a political sort of overall perspective on it. This is about the individual, you know. It's about supporting vulnerable people in need and also challenging policies, you know, like I said earlier. And I hope that people will change perspective of a struggle like this. I mean, but it's also not our job as filmmakers to solve those issues. I think it's our job to just put them there and allow people to discuss them and take them in whatever means. I don't think it's our, like, we can't stand here and go, yeah, I'm gonna solve a da-da-da-da. Like, we're making cinema, we're telling stories, but so I don't like to say like we are the sort of fixers of something or a cause, but hopefully people can
Start a discussion about
start a
that
discussion. Yeah.
There's a question right next to. There we go.
Hi. This is a question for Harris, and it's completely different to the other ones. I've got a James Bond podcast. Oh, yeah. You're my second choice to play Bond. And I was
surely, yes.
Who's your first choice?
Jonathan Bailey.
Oh.
Who would you
I'll text
like
him and
to
let him know.
play as James Bond?
Who would I like to play James Bond?
Who would be your choice?
Archie.
There is actually a photo of me playing Bond.
Yeah. I don't know. Jonathan Bailey is your first choice. Let's go with that. That sounds like a good idea.
Okay, thank you.
And we have a question right here. I'm going to come.
Question for Harris. Yesterday, a director-actress said that some directors find actors terrifying. And because she's an actress, she feels she has a better relationship with them and understands them. So what sort of relationship did you have with your actors, all of them? And did you ever feel like you wanted to say, no, do it like that?
I tried to never give like a line reading to Frank. I didn't want him to ever think that I was trying to perform a way to do it. No, but I do think this goes with all directors. Like sometimes directors, when they write a director, they have a specific, whether it's an intonation or a feeling behind the line that they've written. I welcome that from a director sometimes. Sometimes that unlocks something, you know. And sometimes Frank would ask for that, like, where is this coming from in a feeling way? And I would never give him the line, but there was times where you sometimes need to unlock a little something that no one else understands. But actors we're vulnerable. We're a bit mad, I think. So I think each actor is so different as well, aren't they? Like everyone is so unique in what they need from a
Process. And
they navigate a role very differently. So, but it's definitely given me a lot of insight into what I feel is productive on set and what is positive and what is negative. You know, I've had both sides of it. So,
how weird was it directing yourself as Nathan? I mean, you're not in it a ton, but it's quite a pivotal role. It's quite fun seeing you and Frank on screen together. Did you find that at all? you have to step into a different hat? Did you have to like go away for 10 minutes and
it
get
was
in the right
horrible.
head zone? And
It was horrible. I also relied on these guys a lot because I trust them implicitly. You know, Josée would give me a little, and Archie would give me a little something. So I did just rely on the people around me, and Scott too, who's here. So it was it was a group thing. But I would watch it as well. I'm very good at self-scrutinizing myself.
Okay.
I'm probably too good at it. But self-tape culture. You know, the last 5-6 years, self-tapes have been a big thing for us actors. So I'm used to putting a scene down and then having to watch it and scrutinize myself and see where I can do better. But
Archie, could you be in charge? Could you direct for 10 minutes while he was playing Nathan? No.
Yes.
Just say it.
But Harris was rushing out of as soon as he was finished his line, he would like run to the monitor
Yeah, let's see.
for the scene to
Let's
go
direct.
on.
Yeah, let's direct now. I think we have time for one more. So, Katie, just next to you, I think a hand's up.
Hi, question for Harris. Can you speak to the edit process? How did you find that with so many takes and the approach to sort of shaping or reshaping the film?
yeah, I loved it actually. I had a month. Our editor couldn't start for a month after we finished, so I had a month on my own where I just watched everything and sort of made my selects and sort of put a rough assembly together. And then when he came, it opened up a whole new world, a whole new conversation for the scenes, and I loved it. I mean, it was invigorating going in each day, you know, and also nice to have like a good 10 till 6 structure, you know, and like a lunch break at
A day
every
job.
time. It was like, it was great. We'd go and eat with the city people, and like, it was very civilized. But of course, you get to a certain point where you also start to feel like, you know, you've seen it so many times. I don't know what's good or bad. I'm seeing the mistake in the background. I'm seeing, you know, so it also becomes very neurotic, a bit unhealthy, but yeah.
But I think also, and just going back to your question earlier about HODs, I think Raf Torres, who's also in the room, he was incredible. When he came in, he just understood the project, and what he did with you was it was great.
And just to wrap it up, you've got to go do a busy day of interviews. Harris, where do you think your it's a bit obnoxious? Where's your career going from here? No, but do you want to keep acting and working with other filmmakers in that way? And then obviously you are here, the world is going to see tomorrow, you are a filmmaker, you are a director. So how do you plan to balance that in the future?
Well, I think it's probably healthy that I can't do something right away. You know, if I act in between, maybe it gives me a chance of pause and reflection on what I want to do next. But I mean, if people will let me make another film, then I'm making another one. So if I can get that going, then we'll do it. But I definitely, you know, loved it with my whole heart, and I'm just grateful that people wanted to do it with us. Yeah, and thanks to you, Wendy, because you've been an early supporter, and you know, getting behind cinema and British cinema is just, it's cool. Thank you very much.
Well, I genuinely think it's such a strong film. I cannot wait for you all to start seeing it tomorrow. It's going to be the talk of Cannes, and we wish Team Urchin the best of luck here at Cannes and beyond. Good luck tomorrow.
Thanks for coming, everyone.